What is up, guys? I'm Clover Spilt Milk here, and today I'm doing my second, what I believe the grid will be for 2023 video today. Just for context, just so if you're watching this in the future, we've just had the Dutch Grand Prix, so we're basically, already over halfway through the season. Yeah, so here we go. Let's get into it without further ado. So what an exciting silly season it has been. The powder keg was set off by Sebastian Vettel announcing his retirement from Formula 1, and then Alonso took Vettel's seat. The main reason we believe that Alonso signed for Aston was that Alonso didn't want to be kept on the seat warmer for Piastri, as Alpine only wanted Alonso on for one more season while they evaluate Piastri at a lower team for 2023. All this creating low risk for Alpine, as they can simply get rid of Alonso if Piastri shines, or Alonso can be kept if Piastri flops, or if Alpine needs 2024 to continue evaluating Piastri, they could. Aston could offer Alonso a multi-year contract, which is what Alonso is looking for, and perhaps a final roll of the dice for Alonso to see if Aston can make a competitive car in years to come. In addition, as Aston is one of the few teams with no academy, Alonso would not be asked to be set aside for a young gun coming up through an academy. But all this turned out to be academic, as Piastri denied he signed for Alpine and instead was able to sign for McLaren, as Piastri and his management team, i.e. Mark Webber, were getting fed up with Alpine. Piastri's camp believes Piastri should have been in an F1 seat for this year in 2022, and then they signed for McLaren, as McLaren could definitely offer Piastri a seat for 2023. In my opinion, I do feel sorry for Ricciardo, basically being ousted from his seat, but with a year and a half on from signing to McLaren, apart from that fluky win in Italy in 2021, which Norris could have also won, Ricciardo has just not been getting to grips of the car, and Ricciardo is not being found at the top of the midfield with Norris. As I said in my mid-term driving rankings video, Norris has scored significantly more points than Ricciardo, and McLaren are in tight dogfight of Alpine for fourth place in the championship, and McLaren need both of their drivers at the top of the midfield. We just had the Dutch Grand Prix, and Ricciardo had an absolutely awful weekend. I think he finished in 17th place, just only Latifi behind him. Oh my goodness, it's just not working out for Ricciardo, and I agree with McLaren had to do something to remedy the situation. Ricciardo's just not shown any improvement throughout the season. Maybe Ricciardo just can't get to grips with the new 22 regs or formula. Is Piastri the man that McLaren are looking for to secure the McLaren as the fourth best team and help McLaren closing on the top three, so McLaren can look clearly ahead instead of over their shoulder looking for Alpine and other rivals? Time will tell, and let's remember this situation is unprecedented. Piastri has never even competed in an F1 race, and it could turn out Alpine could be the one to last laugh if Piastri flops. I would have expected a situation like this for Mick Schumacher or Max Verstappen, where two or more teams would have, claimed to have a valid contract for a rookie with exciting talent. So in conclusion, this all comes nicely onto the main part of the video. We'll start discussing the open seat at Alpine and Ricciardo as a free agent. So the expectation is put them together. That Ricciardo will simply take the vacant Alpine seat, as it's considered to be the most competitive vacant seat left. There's also seats for AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Haas, and Williams also up for grabs. But would Alpine and Ricciardo be able to kiss and make up after Ricciardo left Alpine when it was Renault a year and a half ago to join McLaren? I can see it happening, as Ricciardo has had a better time at Renault compared to McLaren. But as I mentioned earlier, is it the new formula Ricciardo is struggling with, or is it just a McLaren car? I think it's more the car, as Norris could comfortably beat Ricciardo in 2021 before the new regs. And of course Norris is doing really well this season as well. So I think Ricciardo just needs a car more suited to him, and the Alpine could be it, or be at least a car that Ricciardo can get more out of compared to the McLaren. So if Alpine decide not to go for Ricciardo, or if Ricciardo gets snapped up while Alpine ponder their decision, who else can Alpine go for on the 2022 grid The drivers without a contract for 2023 are Latifi, Schumacher, Tsunoda, and Zhou. Bear those 4 drivers in mind. So in addition to Ricciardo, these 5 drivers are without a drive for next season. There are other drivers who Alpine could go for, like Nico Hülkenberg, who last drove for Alpine, which felt like an eternity ago, but has impressed with his super sub appearances for Aston Martin, and also perhaps Theo Pourchaire, who's a highly rated Sauber youngster. Could Alpine do a proper deal this time with Pourchaire and put the Piastri fast behind them? And perhaps Pourchaire could be a consolation for Piastri rigging out Alpine's grasp. There's also Felipe Drugovich. I'll come into him later as well. I don't think Alpine will be a good fit for Drugovich, but we'll go on to that later. Another driver Alpine could pick is Pierre Gasly. However, Gasly is locked into a contract with AlphaTauri, and Alpine may have to make a huge concession to get Gasly. This would be a good move for Gasly to finally get a fairly competitive drive and finally break free from the Red Bull family. I think Gasly will be, by the end of his career, the next time Red Bull seat opens up. So going to Alpine would be an inspired move, and if he shines at Alpine, maybe Red Bull may come running to get Gasly back. I think Gasly is now ready for a competitive seat. I think he went to Red Bull too early after Ricciardo's departure from Red Bull. But in F1, you have to take the opportunity when it's there. You can't say, I want another season at the junior team just to make sure I'm ready. In the meantime, Red Bull could sign another driver who shines, and the chance of Red Bull drive may be lost forever. At least Gasly had a half a season with Red Bull. But if Alpine do manage to snap at Gasly, it would be a very popular move in France, as this would create an all-French team, a French team with 2 French drivers in Ocon and Gasly. Another things that Alpine should look at is also Magnussen and Bottas. Again, these 2 are locked in long-term deals with their respective teams, and as both drivers are over the halfway point in their careers, would it be worth going all out to get someone who only has a few more seasons in F1? Also, I would say both drivers are sort of like, not going through in the doldrums a bit. They're not in the best form at the moment either. That just leaves, there's another driver to consider. There's also Alexander Albon, the high-flying Williams driver. Albon also has dibs on. Red Bull also has dibs on Albon, and I'm sure Albon has dibs on Red Bull too. It might be a can of worms trying to get Albon with all these, things in the way. Like Gasly a couple of seasons ago, Albon just needs another season at a lower team to really establish himself in the sport. Let's not forget Albon spent a year on the sidelines, and I'm sure Albon doesn't want to do that again. In addition, Albon has a multi-year contract with Williams, giving Albon the stability he's looking for. Alpine would do well to get a hungry driver back like Albon, but I would say there were just too many hurdles in the way. So I do believe it will be Alpine Ricciardo, but if it does not happen, who will take the seat? For me, it's just between Schumacher and Guan Yu Zhou. Zhou was part of the Renault Academy, and for us to be familiar with the team already, Zhou has had a very solid, albeit quiet rookie season, and has just had bad luck with reliability, and plus been taken out the British Grand Prix. With Schumacher, though, on the other hand, Schumacher is very much fighting to stay in F1. I think the Schumacher-Steiner relationship at Haas has been broken after Monaco Grand Prix. I can't see Schumacher being resigned for Haas, as I think the relationship is truly gone, even though recently Schumacher has improved with 2 consecutive point finishes at Britain and Austria, and I think Schumacher also scored in Canada if the Haas did not falter. Schumacher has been very proactive over the summer to network for to keep staying F1. He's followed Alpine's recruitment direct on social media. I don't see much in that really. It's like every driver's doing that. It would be a fantastic story though if Mick did go to Alpine and did really well. Remember, at one time Alpine was the Benetton team that Mick's father Michael won 2 world championships with. Imagine the story if Mick emulates his father, and then perhaps Mick might move back to Ferrari afterwards to dominate with them. But we're just getting ahead of ourselves now. I think with Schumacher, the only trouble with Schumacher is that the jury's still out on Schumacher. It's still be a big risk for any team to sign him. but is it worth it to take a chance on the Schumacher name? Schumacher would be his third season in, and he's only had, like, in his first season, he did what he had to do. He beat Mazepin. Not much in it there. He did what he had to do. He ticked the box there. He's now got a proper teammate in the form of the name of Magnussen. There's been times where Magnussen's been ahead. There's been times where Schumacher's been ahead. It's fairly evenly matched, but I just don't think that Schumacher will be in sport next season. So anyway, okay, so let's make a decision time and let's fill some of these seats. I think Ricciardo will end up in Alpine, and the only net difference to what would be from 2 years ago, in 2023, Ricciardo will have to take a pay cut. So basically, he would be continuing exactly as he was at, when it was Renault. But of course, the money should not be a problem for Ricciardo, as Ricciardo did fleece Renault during his time there, and he did promise to be the team's future. And also, Ricciardo will surely be getting a payout from McLaren, as McLaren are terminating his contract early. Perhaps the easiest call would be, this surely must be a slam dunk now, would be Logan Sargent to replace Latifi at Williams. Now that Piastri is no longer on the scene and we need a Williams seat. I know there's also Nick De Vries in there, but if Nick De Vries did want to join F1, I'm sure he'd want to look further up the grid to Williams. He wouldn't, he'd rather get another seat, or maybe he might want to get the Williams seat, show what he can do. Against Albon, if you can beat Albon, yeah, why not? It's there's no harm in that. It's to show where he went. Williams are now free to offload Latifi after 3 seasons of mediocrity, and can safely take a risk on Sargent or De Vries. Now that Albon has now shown he can be a dependable breadwinner for the team, giving whoever takes the seat time to get up to speed with the Williams. Because they don't explode on the scene initially. Nick De Vries is currently racing in other series and was very much linked to the Mercedes team and is a reserve driver for them. Nick De Vries, Formula F2 champion, Formula E champion. So there's lots of titles to his name, and I'm sure Nick De Vries would love to add a Formula 1 World Championship to his resume. But I think he just have to wait for perhaps Aston Martin if they get more competitive, or another team that's affiliated, or Williams, so they can get competitive, or another team that is affiliated to Mercedes to do well, and then perhaps close up on the eye up the Mercedes seat when Lewis Hamilton moves on. So Sargent's currently third in F2, but he has many retirements this season, and with fewer retirements, he could have been second in the championship and actively challenging for the championship. So I think I would go with Logan Sargent for now to go to Williams. That's probably an easy call. As I said before, I think Nick De Vries will be looking higher up, considering his prestige, having a few, winning championships. He surely should be looking for a better race seat to break into the scene with. So let's have a look at let's go for the next easiest call, in my opinion. That would be for the vacant for the available AlphaTauri seat. That's going to go to Red Bull F2 Junior. Let's say for now that'll be Liam Lawson, as he's currently the highest placed Red Bull driver, to replace Tsunoda. For me, Tsunoda, although he does have his good moments, he's just not shone at Alpha this season. And the trigger happy firing finger of the Red Bull Academy will surely be itching to pull the trigger on Tsunoda. So Liam Lawson at AlphaTauri, Logan Sargent at Williams, and Daniel Ricciardo at Alpine. Okay, so now on to the last 2 remaining seats at Haas and Alfa Romeo, and this is when things get tricky. You have got recently crowned F2 champion Felipe Drugovich winning the championship in his third full season with 2 rounds to go, displaying similarities with Verstappen, with Verstappen dominating F1 this season. Theo Pourchaire will surely finish second, and Logan Sargent will fight for third place with Doohan, Lawson and Iwasa. The only trouble with Drugovich is that he does not have any F1 affiliation, and there's no clear path for him to F1, as unfortunately is the case with many F2 champions with no parent team affiliation. We've seen before examples with Fabio Lima in 2013, who retired from motor racing altogether in 2017, after being Manna's do you remember Manna? He was their reserve driver. Yeah, I don't really remember Manna either. I had to look them up when I looked and did my research and to remind myself who Manna were. Basically, he flopped in Formula E as well, Fabio Lima. And there's also another example in the 2012 F2 champion, David Valsecchi, whose career pretty much ended a season later after winning the F2 championship. He was the reserve driver for Lotus for a season, and just not breaking onto the grid of Lotus, with Lotus rather going for drivers who are more experienced or could help finance the team after Kimi Raikkonen, at the time, pretty much almost bankrupted the team. So let's come back to the here and now. We've been 10 years into the past. We're now back to the here and now. Both Haas and Alfa, and in fact any team would benefit and would be very interested in a driver like Drugovich. However, I think Porsche is ready for F1 after 2 full seasons in F2, and being Drugovich's closest rival for the championship, with 2 race weekends in Monza and Yas Marina to go. Already Drugovich has won the championship, so he won't be able to catch him. But all Porsche can do is secure 2nd place. So I think that's the 2 contenders for the Alfa Romeo seat will be the incumbent Guan Yu Zhou and also the Theo Porsche. If Alpine decide to go for Ricciardo rather than Zhou, I reckon I believe Zhou was to be given a second chance with Porsche. Perhaps Porsche has been heavily linked to a Formula E drive for a season or 2 to get more experience, and then either replace Bottas or Zhou in a couple of years' time. So I think Porsche will end up in an Alpha seat, but not yet. Not until Bottas retires or moves on, or if Zhou does not capitalise on his rookie season and continue, and fails to improve. So Zhou, I think, will win the battle for now. He'll get the 2nd season and be driving for Alfa Romeo in 2023. But I think Porsche will eventually win out and win the war, and he'll be in an Alpha seat in the future. As long as he impresses in other Formula and shows why he deserves to be in that Alpha seat. So Theo Porsche, Guan Yu Zhou for 2023 at least for Alfa Romeo. Now, onto the last seat up for grabs at Haas. And I think I've made it clear that Schumacher will be out of the Haas next season. And as the other seats have been filled, Schumacher will be out of Formula 1 for now at least. Schumacher will perhaps fulfill a testing role in the Ferrari program and maybe loaned out to take part in other disciplines of racing like Formula E, maybe sports car, and so on and so forth. I think Ferrari will be stable for a few seasons with their driver lineup, with Sainz and Leclerc, so perhaps try to get as much experience in building his career in other racing disciplines to raise his profile might be the best course of action for Schumacher, and perhaps look again at Ferrari in the future if Ferrari want to change their lineup. I don't think languishing either Haas or Alfa Romeo will be a good move for Schumacher. He needs a really good drive to really show what he can do. However, on the other hand, the move to Haas may be the perfect opportunity for Drugovich, with no affiliation, with no easy step up to Formula 1 to show what he can do. Perhaps spend a season at Haas. That could springboard them onto bigger and better things, make the bigger teams think, we've got another option here. Drugovich should be another good option we can look at. He's not affiliated to anyone else, no strings attached. So, it might be worth going for in the future. Haas could go for a Ferrari affiliated youngster as well, but I don't think any of the academy is ready for an F1 seat, or they've been locked into contracts or in other racing series elsewhere. But I think Drugovich would do well at Haas, having a benchmark of Magnussen to measure up against, to see how he gets on. Also, Haas do not have a racing academy, so I think Haas and Drugovich would be an excellent and realistic match. yeah, so that pretty much sums up my grid for 2023. So just to give a quick rattle through, it'll be Verstappen and Perez at Red Bull, Leclerc and Sainz at Ferrari, Hamilton and Russell at Mercedes, Ricciardo and Ocon at Alpine, Norris and Piastri at McLaren, Boris and Zhou at Alfa Romeo, Magnussen and Drogovic at Haas, Gasly and Lawson at Alfa Tauri, Alonso at Stroll at Aston Martin, and Albon and Sargent at Williams. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video, and please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll be back soon with another video at the end of the season. Once we get a few more confirmed drives, there might be some more surprises up our sleeves. With my final decision on who will be on the 2023 grid. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.